Welcome back to the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Coates. Join me along with industry leaders and friends on a quest to get more people through the gym door and eating and living healthier. Join me where evidence meets empathy while rejecting fitness industry fads and extremism. Let's begin. Amanda Thebe, one of the most trusted people and loudest voices in menopause advocacy and education. You're the author of Menopocalypse. I hope I said that. It's great to have you on. We've been circling each other for a while. And I recently had Dr. Lauren Colenso-Semple on. The episode's actually out today as a recording, and it's blowing up. And so this is sort of going to be overlapping themes. So, but I wanted to, well, first of all, thank you for coming on.
I'm super excited to be here, especially because I know of you as well in the industry. You and I have exactly the same mutual friends. So how this hasn't happened before, I don't know. So what the fuck, Andrew?
Entirely my fault, right?
Yeah, your fault.
The podcast being on hiatus for a little bit, but now we're back with a vengeance. So this, I got to quote this, okay? This is you saying, apparently I went flying through the air and was very lucky I didn't get hit by oncoming traffic. Nothing broken, but I'm very sore. You were hit by a car when you were out for a run recently, okay?
Yeah, like a week ago. Holy
Right.
moly.
So do you believe your commitment to strength training reduced the likelihood of having suffered broken bones in that impact?
I think two things, like, and our good friend Molly Galbraith and I were talking, and Molly said, oh, it's not like 3 decades of strength training didn't help you there, Amanda. So yeah, like for sure, like I've never had a DEXA scan or anything. I don't know, I'm making meaning to, but yeah, like nothing was fractured at all, which was, I got hit hard because I flew and we had tons of witnesses. So there was that. And then the second thing is I've done martial arts on and off for about 20 years as well. And I know how to fall. And I actually saw the car coming. And as well as putting my hand out straight going, stop, you can't hurt me type thing. And then tearing my pec. I think I might have like landed and maybe rolled, like broke my fall. And so I think the danger for me wasn't in the fall, but in the oncoming traffic, essentially. But yeah, at first I was like, the pain in my lower legs and my knees, I've shattered something. And then I stood up and went, oh, that feels okay, actually. So,
Was there a moment where you thought, no, maybe shit's broken, I'm just feeling adrenaline or shock?
Well, the pain in my legs made me go, please don't let anything be broken, because I'm not a natural runner. And I'd started doing a running program 5 weeks ago. I mean, I've run all my life, right? But I wanted to get a bit better. And so, there's an app called Runner, RUNNA, Runner. And I got given a year's program as a gift. And I thought I'll give it a go. And for 4 weeks, I've gone from running 3 or 5K. And this was a 10K run. And it was feeling really good. And the first thing I thought was, oh no, why does this always happen when you're at a good spot? Then I stopped my Strava watch because if I didn't do that, then the 4.5K I'd ran didn't count, right? And then I went to my Garmin and looked at my stats, and I looked at the heart rate, and there's this like a big spike where the impact happened. Quite cool, actually, to see the data,
This episode is brought to you by Macros First. I've always struggled with nutrition tracking apps, even the slightest hassle or friction, and it breaks my habit. That changed with Macros First. When I tried it, I told my friend, the founder, Jacob, quote, this is, well, let's just call it a certain other app on steroids. It's the easiest app to use, and it has a free barcode scanner, which if you use tracking apps, you know this is a really big deal. I recommend Macros First to all my clients and friends, and even had them sponsor my 2024 conference. Here's an example feature that I love. The verified food database. Remember using other apps and searching for a food only to find 10 to 50 similar options with different macros, not knowing which one to pick. This kind of friction is the shit that made me quit tracking altogether. Macros First, every single food item in the database, over 3 million of them, is human verified. No junk entries, so you can trust the numbers. Plus, that free barcode scanner makes logging faster. And if the barcode doesn't turn anything up, just point your camera at the nutrition label and Macros First will extract all the nutrition info instantly. All this just makes tracking easier. And while Macros First's premium version is incredible for any user, the basic version, which is nowhere near basic, is free to use. So you can go to either the Apple Store or Google Play to download.
That's actually fascinating. Now, I'll preface this. I don't think anybody is going to be stupid enough to think, oh, if I strength train, I can go and literally run in front of cars and risk getting hit by vehicles. So I'm not worried that like we have to put a warning label on that. But I guess, is there any data on impact, and not just car accidents, but impact injury rates with women and resistance training? I would be very surprised if there's actually research that chronicles this.
Yeah, like how many, will you go and just run in front of that bus and just see who wins, bus
Yeah.
or you? Isn't it like
Unethical study. The
where
whoever
an
ends up whoever ends up in the
force
control
meet?
group is the lucky one. Sorry.
That's right. It was in the placebo group. It's like when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Who wins? The bus. No, and so in this situation, I consider myself very thankful and lucky because it could have been so much worse. And I honestly, I'm very surprised I didn't break anything from the impact. But yeah, I'm very, very bruised and sore still, and on a lot of pain meds, but I'm fine. But I just think this maybe just sort of clarifies to me the importance of resistance training, because we know as women get older, and this is in the studies, that, in now women in their 60s, and I'm 55 coming up. Like, I mean, I can actually get my pension this year, for fuck's sake, right? Which makes me feel a bit odd. But like in 5 years' time, that sort of data is showing women that are falling and breaking things, falling just out of the chair. And so I'm just like, just everyone just go and lift some stuff, please, because like it makes you bouncy. It makes you resilient.
And I started this with a preface about bones, but more muscle. I mean, that's also tissue that absorbs force and absorbs impact. You combine that with stronger bones, the ability to fall, which I hadn't even considered. And mechanistically, even in the absence of like data on car accidents and women in strength training, mechanistically, it just logically suggests that no guarantee, but improves the chances of you not breaking something. I'm confident saying that.
And mobility as well, right? So we know as coaches, the sort of those like stability muscles are the ones that go. And we also know as coaches that we don't sort of train those type of muscles, our glute med starts to ache straight away, and all of those things. And so, but for me, like what it shows me is that you can get up from the floor. You've got mobility as well, because I think all of these things start to get a bit cranky as you get older. I can feel it, and I exercise regularly. And so the idea that we can't get up off the floor and people are falling on the floor and breaking things, we know that that's sort of in one of those inevitabilities that happen to older people. But the older people they're coming at us quicker than we thought. Like I say, all of a sudden, I still consider myself middle-aged. But yeah, and so for me, I mean, people say, well, why do you train? It's not for looks. It must be for your health. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. Like I had a shit perimenopause and I hated feeling terrible, and I really want a strong, healthy life. And I want to do all of the things, including exercise, that make me feel good. But there's vanity in there too. And I don't think anyone can say there isn't. Because I hate it when people say, oh, no, I don't do it because I like have how to look. And I'm like, yeah, but you do, because we actually have data on that too. A little bit. Like you have to have people look in the mirror and go, oh, look, I'm looking a bit stronger than before. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
This episode is brought to you by Just Bite Me Meals. I work long days and I won't compromise my client experience or sacrifice my workout, sleep, or nutrition. So I needed a quality and reliable meal prep service so I could save time on cooking and shopping and have more time for the stuff that matters. Net out the cost of groceries, and the service isn't as much as you might think, and regular impulsive food delivery apps eating out that cost way more anyway. I get more meal variety and less dishes to clean, and I've been referring clients to Just Bite Me Meals for a long time, and I recently started ordering myself. Food is great. The beef brisket tacos are my favorite so far, and there's a lot of menu choice. Your calories and macros are listed. The portions are great. You can order custom meals. They deliver to your door, or you can pick up from their storefront. And I'm sorry to listeners outside of Alberta, but Just Bite Me Meals is currently just in Edmonton, Calgary, Grand Prairie, and Fort McMurray. Ordering from Just Bite Me Meals made my life easier instantly. And you can get 10% off on all your orders using my code, Andrew Coates Fitness, all caps, on their website. That's Andrew Coates Fitness, all capitals, or go to the link and the code in the show notes.
If you think about it, I mean, number one, I don't care what people use as fuel, but two, let's say there's a vanity component. And preface this carefully, but I think we do see people walking around in society who have let themselves go. And I'm not meaning like obesity straight up, but the clothing they wear, their hair, etc. And someone might not like that sentiment, but my point is, what else are you letting go when you've emotionally kind of given up, right? And maybe, just maybe, if you're still in the gym and an element to that is the vanity side of how you look from training, then what other behaviors are you maintaining that also may be health promoting or mood, mental health promoting, that all add up to just being healthier, right?
You've nailed it, right? In the health promoting stuff. And I can use myself as an example because I really struggle with depression. And it's a new thing that came upon me in perimenopause. And I residually deal with that all the time now. And over the winter break, I had a terrible time with seasonal depression and then some personal circumstantial stuff that just had me drowning. I always feel like, say, in the winter, I feel like I'm like swimming along the ocean, but just with my head out, and things keep pulling me under. And then at that time of the year, this January, February, I felt like I had an anchor on my leg and I didn't do any of the health promoting things that I needed to fuel my physical health and my mental health. Like I was really lost. And this is me as a fitness professional. And it wasn't like, it's not like we're saying people let things go. It's just that like there are signs that happen that make you realize that you're not staying on top of things. And for me, it's lack of social interaction, sitting in my bed rocking instead of actually going out for a walk. So I started working with my coach again, and I was like, I need to feel human again. And the health promoting things I did were getting up on the morning and having a cup of coffee outside, just being outside and going for a walk every day. And then the phone a friend card. And now I'm in a place where I'm back in the gym, and without going back to the vanity thing, I look at myself and go, I feel like Amanda's back again. And that's a physical, emotional, and a mental health thing. And I visibly see that in the mirror. So whatever that vanity looks like, I think that it's a benchmark, it's a baseline, right?
And I think one of the expressions of it that could be very powerful on a daily basis is whether or not someone gets up, gets a shower, and gets dressed with, like, as opposed to some of the grungier stuff with a laser outed versus something that's actually kind of nice. We could hop up and jump out the door in case a friend calls and says, hey, do you want to go for coffee, right? It's more friction if you then have to go shower and get dressed versus if you're ready to go on a moment's notice, right? And these things, as you alluded to, very health promoting, especially the social stuff.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's why I think as coaches, when we talk about health, we're not just talking about the exercise we do and the food that we eat. We're talking about all elements, all key tenets of health, right? Because we know that put together, it builds up this brilliant jigsaw, and you've got to find the pieces that fit for you. And mostly people aren't doing the absolute basics. And we talk about this all the time as coaches. Someone needs to lose weight, so they'll do something extreme like going on keto instead of going, well, can we just have a look at what's happening? Are there any habits there that are like, you've had George Hillis on. He is like the god of this stuff. I'm going to pretend to be like him, but exactly, like you start recognizing those things that in life like are holding you back. And so how can you like flip the switch on these small things that really just send you off on a brilliant trajectory, right? And for me, it was, I knew I needed to eat better instead of eating my feelings in cake, which I did, and it didn't work. And I needed to get back to my strength training, but the access to those wasn't available until I started doing these really minor, like micro doses of getting outside and saying hello to the neighbors instead of go fuck yourself, I don't want to talk to you, So, yeah.
I mentioned how I had Dr. Lauren Colenso-Semple on, and we talked offline about how, she's a sledgehammer now against the bullshit. She's been fantastic. Anyone wants to listen to this episode, message me. I'll happily send it to you. It's that good. But I'll ask you an overlapping question that we discussed because I want to go deep on this. We're seeing an explosion in information about menopause. For a very long time, there was almost nothing. And I want to know, who are your favorite resources and who are trustworthy authorities? But also, why are we seeing so many dubious figures, some with the air and appearance of authority, and many who are outright grifters entering this space? What's going on?
I sort of want to write a book that's called, I am writing a book, actually, my second book, and I want to call it something like Fuck the Meno Fear, because what's happened is exactly that. Like, I started speaking about this. I'm 54 now. I always have to think of that. I'm nearly 55. And I started going through perimenopause at 42. And then I wrote my book and I started speaking about it within the public sphere, maybe about 8 years ago, wrote the book, etc. The book's 4 years old now. And I know I jumped in right at the time when it was starting to make waves in the UK. It hadn't quite moved over to the USA yet. And Canada was like crickets, right? In fact, nobody would pick up my book. And now they're all saying, will you write another one? And I was like, yeah, go fuck yourself. You didn't care when I wanted to write the first one, but whatever. I'm going to cut off my nose to spike my face. But essentially, like, so this, we saw the movement and the momentum happening, and it made me really happy. I was like, finally, we're talking about this, because when I started speaking about it, it was from a personal, like, lived experience. And then it evolved to being a patient advocate. And the patient advocate involved all of the stuff I can talk about within my scope of practice. And then the stuff that I couldn't talk about within my scope of practice, like the medical stuff, I sort of used myself as like a translator, like a knowledge translator, and was like, well, this is what the guidelines say. And so therefore, this is like what you need to know about your options and ways to be able to like speak to your doctor and what it does and doesn't do, etc. And so I felt like I was giving trusted information, and I aligned myself with all of those professionals that truly did stay within the guidelines. And so initially I was like, this is brilliant. Menopause is having its moment and we've got really good players here. And there was a bunch of people like me in the sort of coaching, patient advocate role, and the medical doctors who really didn't have a social media presence. And they're the ones that I was like leaning into, like endocrinologists and OBGYNs that literally were working all hours God sends, but this was what they'd studied. And then the menopause doctors started appearing on social media. And what was happening is they were saying things and I was like scratching my head going, but that doesn't feel right to me. And it doesn't feel right to me. And I'm not an expert, but I have read all of the guidelines from globally. And I feel like I have a really good understanding of what's happening. But now you're saying, oh, estrogen should be used to treat Alzheimer's. Oh, estrogen will stop you having heart failure. And I'm like, going, but I didn't know that was a thing. That feels like, are you sure? So I would start questioning them. And then they would like start pushing me back. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I'm respectfully asking you questions. Like, why is this? And you can't answer me. So I started having red flags and I was like, what's going on here? And essentially, it's no different to any other thing in the fitness, health, wellness, the wellness wankery world, I call it, right? Because what happens is people get eyes on them and they get an ego. They get an ego, and that ego is like, but I like when people are coming at me and giving me all of the applause and saying, thank you for this, you've saved my life, etc. And what I found is that in this space, it's really easy to follow the money. So all of the trusted doctors, which I were like, I think this could be a good player in this. And then I see a flip straight away. And then I follow the money, and there's private practices, there's white labeled supplements that have been curated for you. And there's programs and blah, 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 blah. But then there's also the fear-based messaging that really is just, it's scaring the bejesus out of women. And it's not fair. And it's actually creating such a problem that it's really hard to fight. It's like a juggernaut. And so I can name you all the people that I think are bad players in this, but the question you asked was, who are the good players? Now, Dr. Jane Gunter has become a good friend of mine, and she's become a good friend because she read my book and went, thank you for writing a fact-based, evidence-based book that doesn't cross the medical boundaries. You've just translated stuff and then given them coaching advice. And she says the number one thing that women can do for themselves through perimenopause and menopause, and that's obviously until the day you die, is exercise. It's the most proven thing to help relieve sleep, stress, to help you just, all the chronic conditions. etc., etc. She then became a sounding board for me, and I would run things by her going, this confuses me. And she'll say, because it's bullshit, because they're lying, because they've made it up, because there's no data. And then the narrative that was like coming out from these people I previously potentially admired or already knew they were going to be bad players with things like, yeah, but the guidelines aren't up to date. The guidelines are out to weaponize women. And it's almost like somebody just sat and went, yeah, well, we'll only give it a prescription for this and we'll only do it for this. Whereas really what happens is experts, global experts, come up with a consensus based on every single piece of data we have. And if the data doesn't show that something is got efficacy to it, then they can't put it in the guidelines until we know. So yeah, maybe we don't have all the research we need. But if we're talking about, say, testosterone, which we know can be helpful in low libido and in sexual health, and then somebody over here is saying every woman should be on it because it can help build muscle and improve brain function and heart health, and the data can't be reproduced or the data's not there yet, and you're giving women doses of testosterone for that, then that's called experimenting. And that's what's happening. And now, and you've just been talking about one of your guests who is talks about the Ozempic. Now I'm seeing menopause doctors talking about microdosing Ozempic with hormone therapy and all of the benefits it can give you. And I'm just like going, oh no, is this the next juggernaut? I hate this planet and I want to get off sometimes. It drives me nuts. Anyway.
I like to think about anything like this as a land grab within a status game. And you effectively said that in a different way. And I think the Liver King is one of the best examples because you look at the extremism of nutrition where, okay, low carb has been rebranded numerous times. It's very hard to own that territory. And then a couple of doctors who are a little questionable started branding around carnivore diet, right? They sort of own that space now. That's
Saturday and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then how do we get more extreme than that? How do you find, and I liken this one to swampland, but you've made swampland into like valuable real estate. Well, let's go into organ meat and bull testicles and sunning our assholes and all this sort of stupid shit. And then you end up with the Liver King, right? Which was, of course, concocted on this big giant lie. And I like to think about it this way. There are fitness professionals, like many of us, who and a lot of coaches listening, who look at the Liver King, and a lot of informed enthusiasts go, okay, like how could anyone believe that this guy wasn't on $10,000 worth of drugs per month, right? But then you have to think about it going, we have the curse of knowledge compared to the average person this stuff is being marketed to. So I grew up on wrestling, which I, as a kid, both thought was real and didn't know about the steroids. I grew up during the steroid baseball era and fucking loved it. I grew up watching 80s iconic, superhero movie shit, Arnold Schwarzenegger and his contemporaries. And, you're not thinking as a kid of like, oh my God, he's on steroids. Like, let's say you're a kid, a guy, and you think, oh my God, you could do that by going to the gym. Guess what? I'm getting in the fucking gym, right? Like, there's a little bit of a double standard with like, because women fear muscle, so you see the really muscular
No, but
women.
I felt the same thing about the athletics when I used to watch the 100 meters. Exactly the same thing. And every single one of them were juicing. And Joyner died, didn't she? Joyner Kershaw died. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I was like, doing what? I didn't understand. These things didn't make sense to me.
So it brings you back to why the average person can be fooled by even someone as what we think is ridiculous as a Liver King. So that's me reminding fitness professionals, we got to be empathetic to what's believable to the average person, not what we already know about. So, but I think ultimately it's a big land grab and it's a very lucrative space. I mean, you said you follow the money, now the supplement side. So you've already named some of the people. Let's shout out one other friend of ours. I mean, Molly Galbraith, I've got her textbook right here.
I only said Jen there. There's a bunch of people.
Right.
And I helped review this and really,
there you go.
I really liked Molly's course. And one of the reasons that I liked about it, there is menopause information in there, but it's the coaching of it. And one of the things that's really interesting, and Molly will confirm this, and Lauren as well when she was on, is that when I was doing the research for my book, I was like, what do I have to do that's different from an exercise standpoint, from a nutrition standpoint? What do I have to do that's different? And I couldn't find anything that showed me I needed to do anything different apart from really focus on it, really focus on this time, because even in the thick of the symptoms, And when you're not feeling like doing it, you're still doing health promoting things if you're trying to keep on top of your nutrition and exercise. And even when you don't feel like doing it, like just understanding that you can do some sort of biofeedback and going, yeah, today's a mare day, but it still counts if I go for a walk. And that's what Molly's coaching course does. It helps coaches sort of understand the landscape of menopause. So we've got Molly out there. That's great. We've also got, we had Lauren on the other day as well. And like, honestly, the doctors I used to follow are falling off more and more and more. But we've got Dr. Susan Davis, who is one of the lead researchers in testosterone in Australia. And I'm talking about it's her life's work, right? We've got people like Dr. Anis Mukherjee, who is an endocrinologist consultant in the UK. And again, she's been one of the vocal voices saying, please don't do what this doctor is saying because it's dangerous. And my job actually is picking up the pieces of these dangerous health practices that some doctors are doing. And so out there at the moment, and then, you know, we've got some really great advocates. I'm in Canada and we have some really great people speaking about menopause. We've got Melissa Grelo, who has a podcast, Aging Powerfully, and she's the TV host, but has now become a women's health spokesperson. Wonderful. Dr. Sheila Wajingasea, who is a family physician and also works in underprivileged and marginalized communities like the Indigenous and women of color. And so we have really good people like in this space, but often the loudest voices are the ones, and we've seen it with Liver King, that are just saying, hey, I see you. The medical industry has let you down and you've been gaslit by your doctors and you've been this and that. And there's no nuance in it. It's all headlines and then women are going, but yeah, actually that I see myself in that. She's saying what I need to hear right now. And I never, ever blame women in this because they're typically like desperate for information and knowledge that's hard to come by. They're vulnerable. They want to be heard. Like, community is huge in this. I have a big community and I know it makes a difference to women just to not feel alone and isolated. So, you know, everything's changing. It's shifting. Gen X is going to be the last sort of like set of people that are going to put up with this crap because we're really making waves in this. And then you've got all the celebrities that have joined in, right? And there has been a celebrity movement talking about, like, who would have ever thought that Halle Berry would be talking about her dry vagina and Naomi Watts as well, right? And some of them, I believe, are very good, genuine people who want to sort of like raise awareness. And then others, I don't know whether it's just like they want to be in the moment, in the menopause rush. I don't really know, but it has amplified the conversation. So that's not always a bad thing, but it's not always factual. And that's a bad thing.
You just highlighted one red flag. So I'll say this. We didn't name the bad faith actors, but I think people can draw some inferences about some pretty high profile, large following individuals who were not on your good list. So people can fill in the gaps, but let's make this more about the message than the messengers. Are there any other, let's say, recent claims, stuff that's kind of getting a bunch of attention that you're kind of like, nope, that's bullshit, or there's flaws in that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, there is a couple of like new ones, but the big ones that are out there all the time are things like this, that you can balance your hormones. And there's a lot of menopause coaches, hormone balancing coaches out there, right? So that's a whole conversation. And as well as it also being nonsense. I mean, we don't want to balance our hormones. We want to go through menopause because it's something we have to go through. We can manage that with, you know, either pharmaceuticals or not, or use different ways to manage the journey that's individual to everyone. The hormone balancing coaches, the cortisol coaches, the idea that the reason that you're going through all this is because of high cortisol. And within the cortisol conversation, we also have the people that are saying things like, well, don't do like high intensity exercise like your Orange Theory or your Barry boot camps because it's going to give you excess cortisol and damage your metabolism. And also while you're there, but don't do zone 2 training either because that women don't respond well to that. And I'm like, well, all right, so we've got what's in between.
There's a
Yeah.
there's a viral clip right now about zone 2 cardio not being effective for women. I mean, that's bullshit, right?
And here's the thing. You and I know that the majority of the population don't exercise. And we're talking high numbers for those coaches listening. You know, it's in the 85% who don't move enough. If it's strength training, we self-reported, it's way more. It's like 90% or whatever. But in that 80% of people that aren't doing enough exercise, zone 2 could be the perfect entryway for them to start moving. And of course it is, right? And especially when you've got menopausal women who feel like a dirty dish rag and they can barely make a cup of tea. And you say to them, yeah, but don't go outside and do a brisk walk because, you know, that's really bad for you. I mean, are we really at that stage where we're discouraging women from movement? It's nuts.
And I always go back to this idea of, even in the absence of research, mechanistically, the idea that a brisk walk would be bad for you is so just, it's bollocks that I'm just not even going to entertain
Oh,
the
you
thought.
said bollocks. Thank you.
I love it.
Like a bit of homage to my upbringing.
Might have been a specific treat and reference there. All right.
And then the last one I'll bring up just while we're on this question is the weighted vest. And I particularly took umbrage to this one because there are two sort of like influencers out there. One of them is Charlene Johnson, who, if anyone's ever been in the industry forever, she's like your Shakeology, like MLM, like network marketing person who literally is on the next money grab whenever ever she wants. She's been walking around doing a weighted vest saying, it's improved my bone density. It's done this. It's done that. If you want to buy one, comment vest in the comment. And there's like 50,000. Well, actually, that one, there was over 8,000 comments. Then you've got a doctor who has given herself like real, a real place in the menopause conversation where she gives some accurate information and then just makes shit up. And that's Mary Claire Hafer. She's always walking around wearing a weighted vest. I don't care. She's bad.
Fire away. It's all
Fire
good.
away. Yeah,
it's all
shots
good.
fired. And the thing is, this is a person who has encouraged people to do 1,200,000 calorie, 1,200 calorie diets in her Galveston diet. It's an awful diet, and then is saying, but everybody shouldn't be skinny, but strength training, wear a weighted vest. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever, wear one. Who cares? You're not hurting anyone. But then is like, but this is the data, and this is what we're saying for menopausal women. And then buy my vest through my Amazon link. And now she's going to make her own vest. And so part of me is like, okay, you're a doctor that's taken advantage of people. We've already established that. But it's not just that. It's the fact that both of you are quoting one shitty little crappy, pathetic study in order to make a crap ton of money. And like, so I did a post on this and it was basically like saying, but should all menopausal women wear a weighted vest? The one walked by my street this morning and I wanted to shout out, please watch my Instagram reel because you don't need to wear one. And part of me is like, that's a small, innocuous, daft claim. But the fact is, if you lie about one thing, you're going to lie about something else and you're going to lie about something else. And so to me, it's like these are these gateway lies, you know, and it just boils my piss.
There's another place where this pops up a lot, and I'm going to be very charitable because I really love Michael Easter's books. I think he's doing great things to get people active. The Comfort Crisis is an awesome book. However, he does reference on his media, and I do actually hope to get him on the podcast at some point. But he has mentioned in a bunch of other points about he's a big advocate for Rucking. And I think he's probably the primary driver for the advocacy for and popularization for Rucking. But I find with his entire media, it's geared towards getting people moving, getting people to embrace a little bit more discomfort in their lives. The book is fantastic. And I mean, God, he references Krista Scott Dixon in the book and Trevor Kashey. It's some really great people on the nutrition side of stuff, both of whom have been guests of mine before.
Yeah.
And so, but I see this in there. And so I look at him and I'm not aware that, he's selling weighted vests or anything like that. And I genuinely believe, and I guess this is one of the challenges, that people can share things that aren't well supported by evidence with good intention and well-meaning it
works for me. It adds a bit more whatever to my workouts. Yeah, I actually don't follow him, so I'll check him out. To me, it's more that if you're using a study and you're misrepresenting it to sell something, you're lying. And it was as simple as that, right? Like it was like there was 19 people in this study or something like, yeah, there was 18 people in the study. 9 never exercised. 9 wore vests. They were all seniors. None of them were walking. None of them really showed any improvement in bone density. It just was a lie. It was just made up. And so, like, if he's saying, wear it and it might improve your, like your zone 2 when you're out, who knows? I don't know. But there's still data that shows that they've tested it for like things like fat loss. It was a mess. You had to wear it for like 9 hours a day. Again, it's like one of these, like, it's a small thing, but where I don't give a fuck if you wear a vest. You could be wearing one right now. It was really more the principle of like someone really did probably make a ton of money off a simple lie. And I'm just like, if you don't have the integrity to do, like, if you start that way, then what else can we believe? And I think I'm quite jaded in this field. I just think that you're just taking advantage of a vulnerable set of women. That's all.
And I think that underpins all this. And that'll be the next theme. Quick note that Lauren and I also, in her episode, go really deep. She breaks down some of the stuff about the weighted vest. So you guys, if you want to go check that out, I really push it because it's that good. Okay, so, quote, in 1 month, the top 10 menopause supplements on Amazon generated $3.3 million in sales, end quote. Talk to me about that.
It's $1 billion business as well. It's absolutely crazy. And so, again, if we go to the guidelines, what do the menopause guidelines say? They don't support any of the proprietary menopause supplements. And so these are the mixed blended ones that you really don't know what's in them, right? It could be a bit of like sawdust and mouse poo, who knows, like, but you essentially, like, there's a mixed blend of different items in there that are supposed to be clinically proven to help you with menopause. And there isn't any menopause supplements that are supported by the menopause societies right now. And that's good enough for me because I know that they look at them, right? There is potentially one that they're saying might have a weak like mechanism that helps with creating like a weak type of estrogen. But that's only available in the US and they haven't sort of come out and endorsed it yet. So when it comes to these ones that are going to help you through menopause, they're going to help with your hot flashes, blah, blah, blah. I would, first of all, stay away from proprietary ones because they're literally just a cash cow for these people. And they make the wildest claim. There's one called, Happy Hormones, I think they're called. And I've done a bunch of these in the past and reels to call them out. And they'll say things like, get rid of your trucker belly, get rid of your flabby arms. They're really gross as well, the way that they overpromise all of these different things. And then you've got people that are actually selling supplements specifically to menopausal women under their own brand, right? And it's like, I've curated and I've tested and I've done all of this. And we know it's not true. In fact, if you get Jen Gunter on the show, she did a brilliant article about turmeric. And she contacted the company and said, if I want to start a turmeric like label and I want to call it Gunter supplements or whatever, how much would it cost? How do I get involved in the process? And essentially you just buy them at like 80 cents on the bottle and sell them for 20. The profit's massive on these. There's no testing done on these. And so to me, when it comes down to supplements, use your noggin on this, right? Go for any third-party tested ones that you can, like we do with everything. Use examine.com if you want to know if something might be appropriate. Check with your medical provider to make sure there's no interactions with any medication you might be on. And be careful of some of the menopause-specific ones like black cohosh because it's been shown that it might have adverse effects and it might have contamination in it too, purely because of the place it's grown and harvested, etc. But for me, when it comes down to supplements, I just stay clear because I don't feel like it's something that everybody should take. But if it's helpful to take calcium and vitamin D, take it. Magnesium's good for you. It's going to help you sleep. Take it. Omega-3s, there's like the standard ones that are sort of have some evidence. But and then when it comes to exercise, for sure, like I personally use a whey powder because I can't eat enough protein. And I take creatine when I remember. And even then I flip-flop because of the data that goes a little bit back and forth. But it's a no harm type one. And so I typically don't recommend them, but I do say stay away from proprietary because we've got no evidence. And these people are most definitely not running clinical trials on them at all, right?
And if you see the words proprietary blend, it's a way for them to obscure what the actual ingredients are, because then it's like, we're keeping this a secret because we don't want other companies to copy it. So God only knows what's actually in there.
Or the quantities, or the bioavailability, or the efficacy, all of those things. And so, yeah, but women will try them. I have a Facebook group and they'll say, I've been on, one of the ones they bought off the shelf and I feel so much better in 3 months. And we know supplements have that 40% placebo impact on them. And when you spend money on something, you tend to feel good for a while, right? Potentially. So, so it's something that I just say, try and maybe see if you've got any reason to take them. I have to take ferritin. I have really low blood iron, right? So I have to take that. I don't take anything else. I'm really shit at remembering to take stuff. And so it doesn't suit me at all. But I just think that it's an industry now. There's a menopause gold rush, and it's just a super easy market to have access to, right?
I
There's
like
women,
that.
yeah, they've got
No, go ahead.
a bit more disposable income, right? We're in our 40s, 50s. We're desperate. We just want relief. Jesus, we just want to feel good. Well, then, there's these menopause supplements over there. I'll give that a go. Yeah.
I like the menopause gold rush. That may end up being the title of the episode. I like the point you made about creatine. And I think the research points to that, there's back and forth again, like how powerful its effects are. It's probably a mild positive. It's relatively inexpensive, especially compared to other supplements. It's not as sexy. And I think the other consideration is if someone has existing kidney issues, I'd be a little bit careful with that. I'd talk to your doctor. And then you mentioned vitamin D was one of the ones I was going to ask about, omega-3. Magnesium, sure. Like most people are probably a little deficient in magnesium. I recently started crushing cashews. Now, there's calories in those. Got to be careful about your amounts. But I look for high magnesium food. So I don't actually have a magnesium supplement. But I think these are also things you can talk to your doc about or a registered dietitian. They're probably going to give you,
yeah.
They're probably going to give you a really good, guide on how to approach these things or if you need them. Okay. Here's another fun quote that I enjoyed that you posted. Deadlifting my husband's weight just in case he wants to fuck around and find out.
That sounds just like me.
So what's going on there?
He's a lovely man. I'll preface that by he will never listen to this, and he's also a lovely man. He's very private. There's something about being a strength coach and seeing women feel empowered that really is making a difference to menopause. And one of the things that I personally felt, and I've seen in, thousands of women, is that as well as the physical and mental symptoms that come with menopause, we have 30, 40 odd symptoms. It's crushing on our self-esteem. It's crushing on our mojo and on our belief. And I remember speaking to Dr. Susan Kleiner, which you probably know. Yeah.
One of the first events I ever traveled to.
Yeah.
Sue Kleiner was one of the speakers, and she's spectacular.
I love her. And I think I might have met her through Molly as well at Girls Gone Strong event one time. And I used to have a podcast and I had Susan on, and she said that women in midlife, and she didn't say menopause, she said midlife, women in midlife start to lose belief in their athletic ability, and that shows up as a loss of lean body mass. Right? And I just was like, oh my God, I can totally see that. And there's something else that happens though. It's not just that we are too tired or too symptomatic or too busy because we're in this sandwich generation with our old parents and our annoying kids and stuff, right? There's a lot going on, but there's also this I feel like crap all the time. I'm exhausted. I feel weak, my joints ache. I've got a migraine, there's stuff going on. And that translates physically that when women are doing exercise, they're sort of maybe holding back or not feeling as capable. And I've seen it and I've felt it as well. This is sort of anecdotal talk. And one of the things I like to say is I see you coming out of Walmart with 20 bags of shopping and your grandkid over your shoulder. I know that you can pick up more than the 5-pound dumbbells to do your squats with, right? I know that you're capable, but somewhere along the line, you've lost that belief, and I want you to have it back because the minute they start strength training, you speak to them, this, you coach people. 8 weeks down the line, 12 weeks down the line, they're a different person because it transcends outside of the gym. And all of a sudden they're just like, oh, I start to feel a little bit like more like myself again. I think that I might be capable. What else can I do? And this is what I'm seeing in postmenopausal women when they're out of the thick of it. They're sort of regaining a sense of themselves. And I believe strength training is a huge part of that. Like, I just think it gives the platform to be able to like thrive. I really do.
You made me think of one of my clients. So I
Have you
trained
seen
two
it yourself? Have you seen it yourself with your
oh,
client?
all the time, all the time. I'll give you a specific example. So I'm going to shout out Kimberly. I actually trained two Kims. So they're both wonderful, but one of the two, she loves gardening and she's a little older than you are. And she's noticing that she feels really strong. So she sent me this picture of she'd been able to move two heavy planters herself. Her husband works away, but he also had bought her this beautiful wood carved sign, really heavy. And she was able to both move the planters and lift the sign up onto them and leave it there. And she sent this to her husband and he's like, are you crazy? But she felt incredible because she was strong enough and confident enough to do this stuff. No, this stuff shows up constantly with clients. It's the
And
best feeling.
that's not the end of that story though, right? So she did that and she felt so good about herself that she needed to tell her husband and she needed to tell you. And she probably was walking around like a proud peacock all day saying, fucking look at me. Can you not just see what I've just done? Because it just radiates from you and it gives confidence back. And what we see just during that midlife phase with women is that lack of confidence, and whether it's because of sexism, ageism, hormones, I don't know, menopause, all of it, we need to find tools to help women get that back again. And there's so many examples on social media that we see now of women doing this who are older than me and are just crushing it. And that sort of lights a fire under me. And so, yeah, so the whole deadlifting your husband was just like, yeah, like I can if I needed to, and I could move the body, but I actually can, and it feels good.
Let's take a different angle here because the guys listening, the regulars, have probably been feeling like, okay, there's only so much menopause and women's hormonal stuff. How do you recommend the men? How can men who have women in their lives experiencing menopause, how can they be supportive? Now that could be coaches, but it also can be partners.
Yeah.
Is there anything they can do?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Stop breathing, stop eating loud, don't snore. No, I'm just joking. I mean, you're doomed. You're literally doomed. If you did it, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Just say sorry every time you walk in the house. I'm really sorry for what I've done or I'm about to do. It's hard, right? So I actually did a TEDx talk and it was called Should Men Talk About Menopause? And I am a great believer that they should. And the reason behind me doing that is because I had a particularly bad experience through perimenopause. And the stats sort of show 75% of women will have symptoms. 25% of those women's symptoms will impact their quality of life. Mine did. I wasn't a functioning part of my family or my friend circle, any of it. And I had a husband who's been supportive of me all of our marriage, who's like, what do I do? What's going on? Is it me? Is it like what? He didn't know. I went to the doctors after 2 years of spinning my wheels in the Canadian medical system where every single doctor wanted to help me, but nobody was like, I know what this is. I went to a gynecologist just about something else and he said, you're not losing your mind, you're just losing your estrogen and this is perimenopause. I do believe that you have migraines with aura and depression and these are your main symptoms. And I was like, what the fuck is perimenopause? I mean, this is 10 years ago. And then I was like, oh, great, I don't have a brain tumor. And then I was like, really pissed. I was like, Jesus, why didn't anyone tell me about this? So I went to meet my husband afterwards and said to him, he went, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? And I went, well, apparently I have depression and migraines and I'm in perimenopause. And he went, oh my God, thank God for that. I thought you were going to leave me. It was just dreadful. I was like, oh, what? And he went, the last 3 or 4 years, I've just watched you like completely crumble and I haven't known what's going on. I know, don't cry, Andrew. It's really sad. Like you're feeling this deep in your heart, I know. But essentially, I thought to myself, Jesus, I didn't know what was going on. So how on earth was he supposed to know what's going on? And that just made me just have this like epiphany that we have to really invite everybody into the conversation. Menopause impacts everyone because every single woman, if she lives long enough, will go through it. It's going to happen. It's like puberty, where we have to go through it. And we've had this time and space where we've had no conversation, and men were definitely excluded. And the only men that were included sent us to bloody asylums with having hysteria, right? Back in the day. And then we have this lack of conversation. So we have no knowledge, no conversation. And then the guys are just like, what on earth is happening? And so I invite the guys to become educated. Like, fill your own personal menopause buckets up. And that can be as simple as going out and buying my book off Amazon right now. I'm just joking.
For real.
Yeah, but just, yeah. And it's funny. It's factual based, but there's a bit of comedy in there. But then maybe just saying to your partner, like, I listened to Andrew's podcast and they were talking about menopause. I had no idea. It's so cool that that's in the zeitgeist right now. Like, can we have a conversation about it? Do you need me to do anything for you? Like, fill those knowledge buckets up, because open conversation is the absolute only way that you're going to like have a sort of a positive experience with your partner over this. The minute I started talking about menopause in my house, my husband was like, oh, okay, right. Well, what do you need? Like, and that's it. We're not needing you to fix us. We're needing you to listen. We're needing you to have a bit of compassion. You guys want to fix everything. This is not a fixable thing, but we do want you to have our backs. And as coaches, I think there's some really great things we can do for our female clients, because, the lion's share of most of our clients tend to be women at between 40 and 60, because we have time, disposable income again, and we want to take care of our health. But if you're sending Janice in the corner to do a 10-minute skipping session to warm up and she's peeing her pants, Janice isn't going to want to come back to you. And so part of what I often suggest, and when I do educational talks for gyms as well, is I'll say things to like your male clients, like, you can go in and go, I've just been doing some education on menopause. And, if ever there's anything you want to talk to me about, yeah, Molly's book is perfect for this. Yeah, because it gives you the language to use to be able to say, I got your back. Like, if you're coming in and you're feeling like nah today and you don't think you can do our session, do you want to work on biomechanics? That's never a bad thing to do. Do you want to do some mobility stuff? Because chances are, once they get going, they'll start to feel a bit better and do a bit more. And just being that support person is huge, because menopause is isolating. And so that's essentially what I think all partners should do, right? Is just be supportive and empathetic, and read on stuff. If you're a coach, do Molly's course for sure.
For the audio listeners, I was holding up the book, Menopause Coaching Specialist Certification, which, of course, my friend Molly Galbraith and Girls Gone Strong, they do a wonderful job with this. I can't endorse this enough. I mean, what are the biggest takeaways? I'll just say this. Every woman's experience is different. That is both what the data evidence says. It's also what I've, gotten anecdotally from all my clients, and just being empathetic to that. There are no firm and fast rules. And you said this earlier, that some of the best things that we can possibly do are, one is exercise, is work on trying to improve the quality of nutrition. That does actually help. And then something you didn't say, but this is powerful too, is, alcohol and smoking, they're big experiential negatives. Right? They are. So if that's going on, it might be time to have a serious conversation about those.
And it's interesting because our tolerance for alcohol in menopause definitely changes. It's like the hangovers, and I know it might be age related as well, but there's been some talk in the menopause societies, just like how we sort of like tolerate alcohol and, and deal with all of the toxins that are going through our body. But most women find that they actually can't, absorb alcohol like they used to. I just completely stopped. It was easier to do it that way. It brought on my depression. It brought on my migraines. It usually doesn't add to a positive experience. And now in Canada, we're looking at these new recommendations, right? And the links to cancers. And when we're talking 2 drinks a week, that's a huge shift from like the cultural and social norms that we grew up with, right? I grew up in the northeast of England. At 16, I went to the pub to celebrate finishing school, right? It's very different.
My dad and my brother now owns the family pub. I used to own a bar. I worked in bars, okay, like lots of time at those. And it's like, I was going to joke that, I'm 47. I must be in menopause too, because but the way I feel drinking alcohol definitely feels different. So I drink very little of it now. And I used to, let's just say, a very, very healthy tolerance for it back in the day, and then a bad relationship with it. And then now I have a fine relationship with it after years.
Yeah.
And I can sit and I can enjoy a drink with friends. No problem whatsoever.
I think it's the ginger. I think there's a ginger thing happening there, like the Asian gene. I think there's a ginger gene that stops you being able to drink as much. Who knows? But it's interesting. My husband now, because I am not really drinking, buys all the Guinness Zeros and stuff, and the Heineken, and all the pubs are still as like busy as usual. But a lot of them now have these zero alcohol options, and it makes the social side still like matter. And my kids don't drink and won't drink. It's really interesting. The new generation of people coming up, it's not in their culture as much, I don't think.
At least anecdotally, I think there's numbers to back this up, that this youngest generation are not drinking anywhere near the same amount as previous generations.
And they're doing other stuff, I think, but I don't want to talk about that because I have kids that age and I don't want to know as well. I don't want to know what they're up to.
Fair enough. Okay, one last thing she mentioned a couple times, hormone replacement therapy.
Yes.
And you've got a pinned post about your experience on your Instagram. Are there any important, let's say, facts or myths that you want people to know about?
It's really simple as well. So the Menopause Societies are very, very clear about menopause hormone therapy. It used to be called hormone replacement therapy. The correct terminology is MHT, menopause hormone therapy. Hormone replacement therapy is for those who experience menopause at a younger age, because it really does replace the hormones, whereas menopause hormone therapy is a lower level, and it really, for a lot of women, does help balance out some of those roller coaster symptoms that come and go as estrogen and progesterone decline, right? So it can be very helpful for a lot of women. It's really important to know what it's indicated for. And there's doctors that would probably explain this better than me, but it's indicated for vasomotor symptoms, which is your hot flashes, night sweats, and cold sweats. And maybe insomnia that's linked with them, with those vasomotor symptoms and mood changes. That can all be sort of combined together. It's indicated for the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, which is our urinary, vaginal, and sexual health. Estrogen in that pelvic floor region starts to decline. And unfortunately, whereas other symptoms might get better, the genitourinary syndrome of menopause is progressive and potentially can get worse for most women. And so treatment for that is good because it can be proactive, and it can mean that you don't have any sort of issues there. It's also good for osteoporosis if you're a high risk candidate, not for everyone, right? So there's that's what it's indicated for, and there's like amber light indications as well that women might see an improvement in their energy, in their like moods, etc. But that's the main reason that you would get hormone therapy. There's some women that have real contraindications to it. They will never be able to have it. And it's a conversation they have to have with their medical provider. The indications are if you have previously been a cancer survivor or have blood clots. Having family members with cancer shouldn't stop you having a conversation about hormone therapy. So that's important to know. And then there's some women that go on it and don't tolerate it. Actually, that's where I can put my hand up. I tried it and it actually made my symptoms worse. The progesterone gave me suicidal ideology, like very serious side effects. And it made my migraines terrible, the estrogen. And that's not unusual. It's a drug. And I think that one of the messages that menopause influencers and doctors are saying that frustrate me is that these are natural hormones. And whereas they're somewhat bioidentical to the body, meaning, they mimic the hormones in our body, they're very much made in a lab. They're drugs, and they're serious drugs. And so, it's really important to give them the respect they need. And so for those women that cannot take them or don't tolerate them well, there are also pharmaceuticals that are non-hormonal, and some really great ones too. So there is no reason any woman should suffer. Access to care, getting that conversation going with doctors is a whole other conversation because there's a gap in the medical knowledge. And so I really encourage women to go to the menopause societies and print off the guidelines and just say, hey, doctor, I want to talk about this. And this is what it's suggesting that we should try, right? Because the information is there that maybe the doctors haven't seen, right? And then the last part of it is there are compounded hormones, and they're normally referred to as BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Compounded hormones take the FDA or Canada Health or whatever approved hormones and mix them into a different sort of potion or lotion. And then they're sold as personalized hormones and at a huge expense. Most hormones are covered by insurance and at a lower cost, but private clinics that do the compounded hormones, it costs thousands of dollars. And there's no guarantee, and they're not recommended by the science, anyone in science, because we cannot guarantee all of the safety and efficacy that go around the FDA approved or Health Canada approved ones. But women will go to get those because they cannot get a conversation with their doctor. But thankfully, the last thing to say is that there are telemedicine companies now that will have these conversations with you at a fairly reasonable cost that will hopefully give you access to care and at least get the conversation going.
Ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Thebe, you've been wonderful. I appreciate having you on. So everybody can follow you on Instagram at amanda.thebe, Thebe. They can get your book, Menopocalypse. What other resources would you want to direct people to?
They can go to my website, amandathebe.com. I spend the majority of my work doing education in the workplace, actually, and in gyms, etc. And so that's been a really busy, and my advocacy work has taken me there. And so follow me there if you want. But most of the fun stuff is on Instagram, as you know.
Oh, it has been fun. I've been enjoying. This has been wonderful. Thank you again so much for coming on. And for everybody, we mentioned a few people across the podcast. You mentioned Josh Hillis. Yep. Message me if you want the episodes with Josh Hillis, who's incredible. A lot of emotional eating stuff. The Lauren Colenso Simple episode's great. And we even talked a bit about fall and injury risk. And I had my friend, not a doctor, he's Robert Linkle. And Robert is the authority on training older adults. And there's a really great episode on that topic as well. So got a lot of resources. And that's what I'm doing here is I'm trying to bring on the leading experts for topic-based episodes. So that way, whether there's someone in your world who is dealing with what we talked about here today, then you can share this and go, hey, I listened to this. This is great. This can help you. That is how you help me grow this podcast, get in front of more people, and bring on the industry's best guests, because Amanda's only on here because of some of the other people who, I've already had on, right? So I got Molly Galbraith.
Collided in the best possible way.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.